Well, hey folks, Real Honesty with John Ritland is a 20-year reflection on the WCW Nitro episode from August 17, 1998, also known as the episode where Warrior made his infamous debut, where he talked for almost hours on end. It was actually 15 minutes, but still, it was ridiculous. I will get into that in a bit here. I will also have other reflection shows when Flair made his return to WCW. That will be in September, and then Halloween Havoc 98, and also the night afterwards, where it was the last time that WCW actually won a ratings victory against WWE, where they had to show the entire DDP Goldberg match for free because pay-per-view got cut off because they let everybody go too goddamn long, especially Hogan and Warrior, match number 2, Electric Boogaloo. God, do you remember? Do you remember? I'll never forget, because that match was dog shit. But anyway, they were in Hartford, Connecticut tonight, and much like a lot of my reflection shows, I'll probably zip through quite a bit of it. This will be more of a rant on Warrior, but I will talk at length about a couple matches. Anyway, a lot of NWO and NWO Wolfpack stuff tonight. You had Hogan and NWO start off the show. Hogan says, "I possess the power. The Giant will win the title from Goldberg tonight in the main event and present the title to me." Because apparently Hogan is still mad about the whole Ted DiBiase Andre the Giant thing that happened about 10 and a half years before this. Or Hogan just, overtanned so damn much that he thought, hey, I control WCW, even though Bischoff did. Even though Bischoff also was starting to lose a bit of his power because Ted Turner and the whole merger thing was starting to happen, even though that whole merger wouldn't really fully take effect for about another 2.5 years. So, then Mean Gene interviews J.J. Dillon, and it's hype for Fall Brawl, 3 teams in a War Games, 3 teams of 3. It was Team NWO Hollywood, Wolfpack, and Team WCW. And yeah, that was a pretty messy War Games. That, besides the one where I believe where Nash won, and it was that Tower of Doom War Games cage. I believe besides that, I think the Fall Brawl 98 one might be the worst War Games ever, because Warrior and Hogan were involved. And then we go with the first match, and just when you thought a ton of interviews weren't enough, great technician like Steve Mongo McMichael comes out. I hate Steve Mongo McMichael. I can't stand the guy. I don't hate him as a person, but I just hate the idea that he was one of the worst commentators, one of the worst wrestlers ever. He couldn't do anything, and for being such a great athlete, sure, as a football player, I'm sure he had tons of injuries. I'm sure he couldn't do a ton of shit, but he looked like an out-of-shape dumb fuck that couldn't do anything. Oh, he could hit a cool spike pile driver, sure, and almost drop people on their goddamn heads. When you are having to have Reggie White, an actual football player, carry you to a match that went on, by the way, for too goddamn long. I mean, and that's on that I believe was a year before this. That was pretty ridiculous. When you had to have Reggie White or even have Kevin Green carry you to a match, that is not a good thing. And to think, Steve Mongo McMichael was a former U.S. champion. He actually might be worse than Hacksaw Jim Duggan, because at least Hacksaw Jim Duggan put in the work to be a champion and actually earn it. Now, I'm going to make the argument he should have never been U.S. champion at that point in his career, but at least Hacksaw put years in the business. What the fuck did Mongo McMichael ever do? Oh yeah, be an idiot. That's pretty much what he did. He faced off against Sick Boy. Nothing against Sick Boy. He looked like the lost Blue brother. Jacob and Eli Blue, a.k.a. the Harris brothers, a.k.a. the stupid racist fucks. Steve Mongo McMichael, spike pile driver, he wins. Okay, cool, whatever. It was blah. DDP interviews, all about Fall Brawl, and then Bret Hart comes down because DDP calls out Bret Hart, and possible U.S. title match later? Yeah, they have one later tonight. And then also DDP would beat Bret right after Halloween Havoc for the U.S. title. It was really messy what they were doing with DDP. I mean, I love DDP. He should have been champion before he was. I mean, WCW champion. Because his 3 reigns, and I mean, I love the guy, but his 3 reigns, they lasted, a total of 70 days? And that's pretty sad. It's similar to what they did with Dusty Rhodes in the NWA title, but of course, at that time, there were a lot more promotions and everything. In the era where DDP won the title, there was ECW, WWE, and WCW. And that's it. I mean, there were a few indie promotions. But important thing is, interview, cool, whatever. There were a lot of interviews. Mean Gene must have been just getting paid by the interview or something. And I love Mean Gene. They used him a whole lot. And Mean Gene's one of the greatest of all time, and certainly deserves to be in the WWE Hall of Fame. It was just kind of ridiculous how much they used him. But anyway, another Mean Gene interview where he's now, instead of in the ring, he's on the stage. He's either at the entranceway or in the ring. Anyway, he interviews Raven, and then Horace Hogan comes out. Horace Hogan, who I'm sure is not a bad guy and hopefully is not racist like the other Hogan. And the other Hogan's racist. I don't care what anybody says. He's sorry he got caught. He's not sorry for what he said. People can change, but I don't believe for a second that Hogan changed. Moving on. Horace Hogan wants to get at Raven. Raven says, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to have a tag match. Apparently wrestlers can just make tag matches now. So it's like nothing has changed in 20 years given the current WWE product. Raven says, I'll give you Canyon as my partner, and since Saturn's going to have to get used to being subservient to me, because they were going to have Saturn and Raven a fall brawl, and if Saturn lost, he would have to be subservient to Raven. If Saturn won, the flock would disband. It actually was a pretty good match, despite the fact they never used Raven or Saturn very properly. But anyway, so it's going to be Raven and Saturn versus Horace Hogan and Canyon. I already forgot about it. That shows how much it meant. And JJ Dillon, okay, well, cool. Guess what? None of you guys are going to cost your partner the match or you'll be suspended for 90 days because Saturn said he was just going to punch out Raven. I mean, as you would with a guy you're feuding with. Then High Voltage versus Alex Wright and Disco Inferno, and Ming interfered and took out everybody. He should have kept the Tongan Death Grip on Disco Inferno for a longer time. Fuck Disco Inferno. Can't stand the guy. He's a Vince Russo mark. I mean, I'm sorry. If you're a Vince Russo mark, chances are I won't get along with you. And yeah, there are certain ones that I try to get along with, but couldn't, because they're idiots. They also couldn't stand that I have my own opinions. But anyway, Ming attacked everybody, and I mean, well, he even attacked refs. I mean, he even attacked somebody that hit him with mace, and that didn't really do anything because he's Ming. He doesn't play by human rules. Ming, Haku, whatever the hell you want to call him, he is scary. So yeah, that happened. High Voltage was a weird team because they were athletic enough for big guys, but they never really got to do anything. They tried to push Kenny Chaos as a singles guy. That didn't really work. And nothing against the guys. Alex Wright deserved better than he got. That's all I'm going to say. Disco Inferno was absolute trash. Trash in the ring. Trash human being. Of course, then again, he teams up with Russo a lot, so of course he's a trash human being. And then Eddie does the famous coffee promo where Eddie brought down his suitcase, his carry-on suitcase, a cup of coffee while sporting a mullet. All our arguments are invalid. Nothing's going to beat that look. Eddie was like, I don't care anymore, Bischoff. You're holding back everybody in the back. This is when they started to do a whole lot of shoot promos that were kind of reflecting on real life. A lot of the younger guys were getting sick of being held down. Eddie threw coffee on himself. You can take this job and shove it up your you-know-what. It's weird to think that about 16 months after this, Eddie, Dean, Saturn, and Benoit would all jump and be the Radicals, and then would lose very, very quickly after they debuted. And apparently Bruce Pritchard was quoted as saying, well, if you have them win right away, then what's next? Oh, I don't know. You establish some new guys? That's partly why Bruce Pritchard's a fucking idiot. It's fine if you guys like him. I just never did. But then Canyon and Horace Hogan versus Raven and Saturn, Raven's Rules tag match. And JJ Dillon also said earlier, the match can only end by pinfall or submission. So instead of count out, disqualification, this kind of stuff. And it happened. It was okay. It was messy. It was fine. Raven and Saturn ended up winning. Raven and Saturn were actually a hell of a team, where they were unlikely tag partners, or when they would team up later in early 99 after Jericho beat Saturn, and then Saturn had to wear a dress. Don't think too much into it. It was either late 98, early 99. But the whole point of this is Raven and Saturn were actually a hell of a team. They really were. The tag team division in WCW till about later 99 was really stacked. And they even still had some good teams in 2000. They just never did anything with the matches because the match quality went down because, hi, Vince Russo. There he is, screwing up wrestling again. And in a Wolfpack interview, when you have Lex Luger start off your interview, that is never a good thing. And, of course, you have the Wolfpack, Kevin Nash, Sting, Conan, Lex Luger. One of these things is not like the other. One of these things is a murderer that should be burning in hell. And then there's also Conan, who's a good worker, but was never more than, I think he was a U.S. champion at one point in 96. He was always going to be bigger in Mexican promotions than he was going to be in U.S. promotions, because he was always going to be about here. None of this Conan's bird. Nash didn't tear a quad in this interview. And Sting, thankfully, by this point, was starting to go through his transformation, and I believe be born again, and thankfully that seemed to have worked out for him, and still seems to work out for him, which is fantastic. I'm not a religion fan at all, but if it fixes him, it fixes him. Yes, it's a little rant heavy, can you tell? Scott Norton with Vincent, the fucking idiot that he is. Scott Flash Norton, though, Scott Norton, very good. He was always bigger in Japan. To me, he was a little bit of a modern day Dr. Death Steve Williams. I would have loved to have seen Steve Williams and Scott Norton face off on American soil. They may have faced off in Japan. I don't really know, because I know some about Japan, but not everything. Obviously, I don't even know everything about U.S. wrestling. I try to, though. But anyway, Scott Norton versus Scott Putski. Scott versus Scott. And boom, over. Scott Norton beats him in like seconds. The son of Ivan Putski, one of the greatest, or strongest guys of all time. And then Hogan interview is where Warrior's debut happened. Now, let me say this much. I want to start with the positives first. Warrior, they did a cool intro and everything. The intro was weird, with a guy talking about, like, taking a target out. And then the music. And the lightning effect and all this stuff and everything, or thunder effect and that kind of stuff. And doing the flash and making it look like you couldn't tell who it was, even though right when he appeared, I could just see. And I mean, I remember being 17 watching this. I'm like, oh, it's Warrior. I mean, at that point, I was over Warrior. I was over Warrior by the time he came back in 92, honestly. And this was 6 years later. Because 92 and 98, 6 years apart, the more you know. They did a great job. The crowd did pop. They popped huge. Hogan sold it just fine at first. You had Bischoff in the ring and the Disciple in the ring, a.k.a. Bruce the Burger Beefcake. That'll come back into play later. And Warrior got a huge pop. The crowd was chanting Warrior, Warrior, Warrior. It worked right there. And then he started talking. He talked for about 15 goddamn minutes. I mean, I know some of my reviews go on longer and that kind of stuff. And it's the ironic thing of me talking about talking too damn much, and that's all my videos are, but that's kind of the point of reviews. But this whole thing with Warrior, I mean, if he had just said, you never beat, it's like, well, Hogan, it's like, you didn't expect to see me, this kind of stuff. You talk about beating everybody, but you never beat me. And he'd say, you never beat a Warrior. The problem is it took about 7 minutes for him to get to that. And then he kept talking. I mean, I timed this. It went nearly 15 minutes, if not more than 15 minutes. Ridiculous. Did he talk that goddamn long? I mean, Hogan did sell it at first, saying, I thought you were dead. Of course, Hogan was just about, 14 years too soon. Wait, 16 years too soon. Or just under 16. Anyway. Warrior's like, then he just starts talking, of course, and Warrior pretending to be all eloquent says, undebeatable. Best words by Warrior. Did he learn that from Warrior University? Warrior University is still more credible than Trump University. There's my one shot at Trump per show. Yeah, this was ridiculous. It just, my God, he talked and repeated himself so damn much, and it was such a train wreck. Like, I can't encompass just how bad this was. You guys got to go back and watch it. Just watch it. It's about, if you go to about an hour into the show, an hour and 6-7 minutes, I think an hour and 6-7 minutes, you got Hogan either getting to the ring or in the ring, and he'll say, there's not a man I can't beat, there's not a war I can't win, there's not a warrior I can't beat to get my belt back, and then, all that happens. It was just ridiculous. And then Warrior nearly getting WCW sued because he can call himself Warrior, but he can't say Ultimate Warrior because that's WCW trademark. But then he said at some point that the fans anticipated that something Ultimate or Warrior would come back. And Bischoff, you can see, even though there aren't too many camera shots of him full on, you can just see him just stressing because they were already still, I believe, going through that lawsuit that they had over using Hall and Nash like they were Scott Hall and Razor Ramon, or Scott Hall, as Razor Ramon and Kevin Nash as, Diesel. They weren't trying to make them any different, Scott Hall and Razor Ramon. That'd be interesting if Nash ever tried playing Razor Ramon. That'd be a little weird. Still be better than fake Razor and fake Diesel. And I love Kane. Congrats on him recently weighing the Tennessee mayor, becoming mayor of Knoxville. Anyway, And this, by the way, is being recorded in the beginning of August. So if any stuff happens with any of these talents by the time this goes up, my apologies for not having the clairvoyance to see, any that happened. This Warrior talk forever and ever and ever and says, I'll be back and I'm going to launch my own campaign against you. And it's just so bad. You guys got to go and watch this. And then Dean Malenko and Kurt Hennig had a match, and the crowd didn't care. The announcers were putting over the whole thing about Warrior making his shocking debut. Rude helped Hennig win. Hennig and Malenko deserved a lot better than this. They really did. And then Scott Steiner, injured, has this weird body cast where half a body cast. He has stuff down his pec and his arm and stuff like that, and down his leg. And Scott Steiner starts talking about anatomy. His anatomy analysis is as good as his math. Not that I'm going to tell Scott Steiner that, because he's insane. And also entertaining. And insane. And you had Buff Bagwell there. Anytime you got to have Buff Bagwell carry a promo, not a good idea. Just not a good idea. And there was some weird guy playing the doctor that looked like Phil Spector's brother, or Phil Spector's twin brother. And then Rick Steiner came down and did a Hype for Fall brawl. More Hype for Fall brawl. And then Jericho versus Chavo versus Stevie Ray for the TV title. Jericho won the TV title because Booker T was injured, I believe, and couldn't defend the TV title. And Jericho won the TV title somehow. I don't quite recall the title. A picture got a little messy here. It was bad. The Giant interfered, chokeslam Stevie Ray. Everybody got, and since it was a triangle match, Chavo Guerrero got into his feet first. Everybody was down, but Chavo had stumbled outside the ring after Jericho had held the ref down. And Jericho had gotten up, and Chavo was down on the outside. Stevie Ray was down, and Jericho was declared the winner, as the ref continued his count instead of starting over, as he should have, because he was interrupted. So Jericho retains the TV title. Brett versus DDP in U.S. title match. This wasn't bad. Brett ended up winning because at one point he hit DDP with a foreign object, but then stuffed it down DDP's tights. And then had DDP cover him. And then Brett kicked out. But then they continued this whole thing. Diamond cutter. And, it looked like DDP was going to win. Brett got his foot under the ropes. But then Brett's saying he hit me with something. And the ref reaches down DDP's tights and finds the object. He finds a weird, elongated object in DDP's tights. Go ahead. You can... It's a weird type of self-high five, I suppose. I'm trying with the humor here, folks, because this episode, I'm sorry, was pretty goddamn rotten. It was poorly paced. I mean, the whole thing with Warrior's debut threw it off. And then this would actually lead to a pretty good series. They would end up having other better matches after this. In fact, the night after Halloween Havoc 98, they would have a better match than this, where DDP actually took the title from Brett. And then Goldberg versus the Giant. It's so funny throughout the entire show, anytime this match was brought up, Tony Schiavone, the announcers, and not even just Schiavone, but any of the announcers, this isn't going to be like a 10-second or 1-minute, world title match where we're not going to do anything, or where it's not going to be anything worth it. We're going to make this match worth something. Michael Buffer's doing his intros and everything. By the time Goldberg got to the ring, this thing started with 10 minutes left. By the time Goldberg got to the ring, 4 minutes. 4 minutes left. Match went 2 minutes long. Disciple interfered. Giant got speared. Disciple interfered. DQ called. Even though Disciple had been hitting Goldberg on the outside in full view of the ref before, that didn't cause a DQ. And then you had Disciple interfere, like I said, cause a DQ. He then got speared and then got jackhammered. Or might have just gotten jackhammered. But then Goldberg tries to cover him after the DQ was called. It wasn't until Jinder Mahal tried doing that with Shinsuke Nakamura in just a segment and not even a match, where he hit the Colossus and tried to cover him in a segment, not an actual match. That is when you don't put uneducated people in the ring until they know what the fuck they're doing. I understand getting excited, but for fuck's sake. Yeah, so not a 10-second or 1-minute match, but it was actually more like 2 minutes. Maybe 2 minutes, 30 seconds. The whole point is fucking Christ. I get that they can't give away these matches. I'm not saying Goldberg could have worked a long match, and neither could Giant at that point. Big Show would get to where he could work longer matches, especially in WWE, because he would have to. My God, this was a really bad episode. Watch it for Warrior's debut, if nothing more. It it was really, really bad, and I just threw the notes in the trash. That's what I gotta say. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed my retro reviews. I really do appreciate the fact you guys recently got the channel to over 100,000 views. It really means a lot. Let me know some shows that you would like me to do reflections on. Let me know, and I will consider them. I will write them down on a sheet. But anyway, like, share, comment, subscribe. Twitter link in the description. It's been Real Honesty with John Mifflin, and I will see you soon.